Hello and welcome to the Met Office Deep Dive. This week I'm going to be taking a deep dive into the rain. It's certainly deep enough after the winter we've had. There are several reasons I'm going to be focusing on the rain this week. We've had a lot of it. Many people, if not everyone, are sick of it. And although we are seeing a drier spell over the coming days, there is still plenty of rain to talk about. But most importantly, I've got a new toy to play with and I'm really excited to show you. And if that's not enough to encourage you to watch these videos on a regular basis, they are done every Tuesday. Hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. These videos are exclusive to our YouTube channel. And like and comment and all that good stuff. Well, I don't know what will be enough. Now let's get on with it. This is the rainfall radar over the last 24 hours. At the moment, it's showing Tuesday morning, and as you can see, there is some heavy rain across the south and southeast. The remnants of a weather system that moved into western parts during Monday, a wet day in the west, and that now is clearing eastwards. But really the focus for rain over the next few days has shifted. It's going to be, well, A, more showery and less frontal, and B, more shifted towards the east. However, let's take a look, before we talk about the rain in the coming few days, let's take a look at how wet it has been. Now, you might have seen this before. This is the February rainfall amount that we saw compared with average. And it's a remarkable map. It just shows how wet it's been across much of England and Wales, particularly the southern half of the UK. For a very large area, that dark blue indicates more than twice the February average rainfall. And more like average across Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of Northern England, one or two drier spots. But yeah, absolutely sodden across the Midlands, East Anglia, Southern England, South and West Wales. And of course, that's not been the only wet month we've seen recently. This shows the rainfall compared with average for winter. And as you can see, eastern, central and southern parts of the UK covered in blues, indicating above average winter rainfall, and some places seeing, 170% of the rainfall, some places seeing their wettest winter on record. Western Scotland, normally the wettest part of the UK in the winter, but this is an anomaly map, so it shows the difference compared with average, and as you can see, it was closer to average for Western Scotland and Northern Ireland. Not only has it been wet through the winter, it was wet through the autumn, it was wet through August and July. It's basically been raining since July. So are we going to see any drier weather during the coming months? More specifically in the coming weeks, of course. I'm going to be talking about that in a moment. But it is interesting when you look at winter rainfall, the correlation with rain and temperature. And this is the final image I want to show on the winter rainfall, but it's a really interesting one. It's got the temperature on the bottom and it's got the rainfall on the left there on the y-axis. And each of these dots is a specific year going back to 1885. Now, the most recent decade, the most recent 10 winters are coloured in whatever the other colour is to blue. I don't know, I should have checked. I'm colourblind. Red, orange, green, something like that. But it's not the blue, not these blue dots, the 10 that are coloured in a different colour, basically. So the 10 most recent are shifted towards this side of the graph. That is the warm side, so the mean temperature on the bottom increasing along the x-axis. So they're all shifted above 3 degrees mean temperature. Now, they're also tending to be shifted more up the y-axis as well. That's the wetter side of the graph. So there's a cluster of them over here. And you could draw a faint line diagonally because there is this correlation between winter temperature and winter rainfall. The wetter a winter is, typically the warmer it is, because you typically get wetter weather when you get Atlantic systems moving. And of course, they bring not only the rain clouds, but the milder air with them. So the coldest winter on record, here it is, really stands out actually on its own. 1963 was also the driest winter on record, or one of the driest winters. As you can see, there were a couple that were slightly drier. It was also the sunniest winter on record. So sunshine and cold weather and lack of rainfall all tie in together in the winter, whereas this cluster of winters, very mild, very wet. And here is 2024. Right at the x-axis, this side, the warm side of the graph, and way up towards the top, the y-axis, the rainfall. Alongside 2020, 2016 you've got, and here are the other 7 or so recent winters. The warmest winter on record remains 1989, but the wettest winter on record 2014, so that was relatively recent. We have had a lot of wet winters recently, so there seems to be a trend emerging. Warmer winters, wetter winters, that's entirely consistent with what we expect with climate change. But it is, as I mentioned, turning a little drier over the next few days, and that's because when you take a look at the bigger picture, let's zoom right out, this area of high pressure, the Scandinavian high. Now, we've got low pressure still close to us, out to the west, coming in from the Atlantic, and we often see this battleground in the winter and the spring. It's between high pressure over Scandinavia and low pressure in the Atlantic. When high pressure over Scandinavia dominates, it tends to be colder and drier. When low pressure from the Atlantic moves in, it tends to be wetter, windier and milder. But that high pressure over Scandinavia is certainly exerting its influence, and it's having an impact on the jet stream, actually. So as you can see, that high is extending its weight towards the UK, and it's helping to disrupt the jet stream. Here's the jet stream, a fast-flowing current of air high in the sky, and rather than sending us this low, it disrupts, it stalls out to the west of us. In fact, it can't go across us, so it dips beneath us. And as you can see, you get this very elongated, what we call an upper trough, this low pressure in the upper atmosphere. So this is the start of Thursday, and you can see that high pressure over Scandinavia really dominating across the UK, bringing a lot of dry weather, but not entirely dry. And I mentioned Thursday weather in just a moment or so, but essentially caught up in this airflow that's coming in from continental Europe. We've got something known as an upper cold pool, and I'll go into the details about what that means in just a moment, but it means that it won't be entirely dry on Thursday, even if we've got higher pressure to the east. Meanwhile, the jet stream is sending low pressure not towards the UK, but southwards towards Iberia. Some very wet weather occurring in Iberia during the second half of this week. We've also got the jet stream then pushing through the Med, and we've got a storm that was named by Italy, Fedra, that's pushing into Greece and Turkey over the next few days, bringing some wet weather. So the unsettled weather, because the jet stream will be south shifted, really dominating across the Mediterranean. Also, look at this on Thursday. We've got the jet stream then pushing north again after this elongation out to the west of the UK and bringing some wet weather to Iceland. So the wet weather surrounding the UK during the latter half of this week. And that brings me nicely onto the new toy that I promised. And of course, it's a risk debuting this new toy in this as live broadcast because it's a new piece of technology. It could fail on me, but it could also be the coolest thing you've ever seen. Let me know in the comments whether you like it or love it. This shows the rainfall totals during the rest of this week. And if I play it forward to the end of this week, as you can see, it's getting wetter and wetter across parts of Europe. Not a huge amount for the UK up till Saturday, but this bright spot there across Portugal shows basically, according to the key here, more than 100 millimetres of rainfall building up between now and the middle of Saturday. We've also got a wet spot there across the Alps, parts of south of France, into Greece and Turkey. So really the wet weather is focused across southern Europe. Another way of showing that is in 3D. Watch this. I'm just going to skip forward to that. And to show the full effect, we can tilt the map, zoom in a bit. There we go. And what we're seeing here is the same sort of thing, those rainfall totals. So the rainfall totals this time between now and up to the middle of Friday, coloured in according to the key on the right. But they're not just flat on the map, they are popping out. If we tilt the map there, that's a bit too far. So this is parts of northern Portugal. And let's play it. and see those rainfall totals really build up during Friday and into Saturday. So there's a serious point here. It's that the rain that we have been getting so much of across southern parts of the UK, it's been deflected even further south during the rest of this week because of that south shifted jet stream. And Portugal, unfortunately, are going to bear the brunt of that wet weather, so that could cause some serious impacts, especially across northern parts of Portugal, with widely more than 100 millimetres, and in some places 125 or more millimetres in just a few days. And Portugal's not the only place where that rainfall is being pushed. We move across to Iceland. As I mentioned, through Thursday and Friday in particular, we've got the wet weather building up across southern parts of Iceland. So as you can see, 100 millimetres or more in places there. And it's mild as well in Iceland, so likely to be mostly rain along that south coast. And then moving across the Mediterranean, there's the south of France, there's northern parts of Italy, so some significant rainfall building up between now and the end of the week. So there you go, that's our new toy. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know if there's any other way that you think that could be improved, or if you love it or hate it. Always good to hear feedback on these new things that we try out in this deep dive, and hope they work and hope they are useful in visualising the weather and explaining things. But let's get on with talking about the weather for the second half of this week, because I left off on Friday, so we've got that wet weather being deflected into Europe. Friday's a mostly dry day for the UK, but by Saturday, that low that I mentioned for Iberia, well, it starts to push north again, and that's going to likely bring us some heavier rain as we begin the weekend, particularly into southwestern areas. Now, northern parts of the UK, in particular northern Scotland, could stay dry through the weekend and relatively cold, actually. So there's a north-south contrast in temperatures across the UK for the next few days. This cold air has been dragged westwards from the continent across much of northern and eastern Scotland. Meanwhile, milder air makes inroads because of this system coming up from the south and southwest by the weekend. So a north-south contrast in temperatures, colder and drier in the north, milder and wetter on Saturday in the south. Quick overview of the weather over the next few days. Let's put on the cloud. So for the rest of Tuesday, really, we've got those heavy showers and thunderstorms towards the south-east. Then into Wednesday, further showers are expected, mainly across central and eastern parts. A cold, frosty but bright start in the west, clouding over in Northern Ireland, and some showers appearing into the far southwest as well as the Republic of Ireland there through the day. Some showers possible for the Northern Isles, but actually plenty of dry weather. Best of the sunshine there across western Scotland. Wales keeping the clear skies into the early hours of Thursday. And again, another frosty start on Thursday across western parts. But Thursday is an interesting one. We've got a dry start to the day, a lot of cloud around, but some sunny spells. Then I mentioned a cold pool. I just want to show you this. It's fairly technical, but I'll try and explain it as best I can. Now, this shows the UK in each of these panels, 6-hour intervals. So this is midday Thursday, 6 p.m. Thursday, midnight. So take a look at the top here. And this bullseye type image here. So if you can see, that's the central and southern part of the UK, top left panel. And the circles that are coloured in blue, that indicates the presence of what we call a cold pool. So this is cold air at around 20,000 feet in the atmosphere. And at the start of Thursday, it's across southern parts of the UK. Then, Thursday evening, it's moving northwestwards. And by midnight, it's up there across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Why is that cold pool at 20,000 feet important if it's not really going to feel that cold down below? Well, it's because there are couple of ways of generating heavy showers and thunderstorms. One is to heat the air at the ground. That's how we typically think of things. Heat the air at the ground, and that will then rise quickly. So if you've got this warmer air, we know that warm air rises. It rises quicker if you heat it. So on a typical summer's day, when you get that strong solar heating, you can generate big shower clouds. But another way is to do the reverse, but with the same effect, cool the air high up. And that has a similar effect. The air down below is now much warmer relative to the surroundings. So if you cool the air high up, then you get this rapidly rising air, heavy showers and thunderstorms and so on. And that is indeed what we're seeing through Thursday. This cold pool at 20,000 feet crossing the country and providing a focus for heavy showers and thunderstorms. What does that look like with our new toy? That's what you're all asking, I'm sure. And here, is that the bars? No, there's the bars. In fact, we need to skip forward to Thursday, that's Friday. This will be seamless next time I do it, I promise. Okay, so this is 2 p.m. Thursday, and what I want to emphasize here is not to take things too literally. It does look like it's a highly detailed and accurate forecast, but there's still some uncertainty about the exact placement of that cold pool and the exact location as it moves across the country. And of course, that will have a big difference in terms of the placement of these showers. The reason I'm showing this is just to highlight the potential. So these showers, don't take them too literally, their location, they could be further east, they could be further west, they could be further north, 2 p.m. Thursday. If we just scroll back to the beginning, there we go, scroll back a little bit. Oh, that's forward. And there we are, right. So this is 3 p.m. Thursday, and it just shows the potential, these bright colours indicating 30, perhaps more millimetres in a 3-hour period. That's what this is showing, 3-hour rainfall totals. So these big spikes indicate the presence of some really beefy showers and thunderstorms, but much of the map still white. So it just indicates the potential there as that cold pool moves across the country for rapidly rising air, some beefy cumulus, towering cumulus or cumulonimbus clouds to develop and dump a lot of rainfall in just a few hours. But they're really quite narrow, these bars, and so very few people will be affected. Many places will avoid the showers. Where the showers occur, of course, they could have some impacts because they'll be very lively. Through the day, they do tend to move north, so let's just play that forward, and they tend to fade away, but as you can see by the early hours of Friday, the potential for some showers there across parts of Scotland into Northern Ireland. So as that cold pool moves north, and of course temperatures at the surface start to drop away because of the overnight period, and the cold pool does move, so the showers do move with it. But there's still the potential for northern parts of the UK to see some lively downpours through the night. Now, that's Thursday. On to the weekend, and just staying on this graph while I've got it and zooming out, and I'm going to put on a different period. This is 6-hour rain totals. Maybe it's better to do 12-hour. Here we go. And Friday, as you can see, mostly dry. So this is the 12 hours through Friday. Still some showers around, as you can see, but mostly dry. However, moving forward again through to midday Saturday, and as you can see, rain moving into the southwest, parts of Wales, central southern England. And this just indicates really the showery nature of that rain as it moves in. There's some highs and lows in terms of the rainfall totals through that 12-hour period. But of course, this is a part of the UK that we don't want any more rainfall. And as this system moves in, it could cause some impacts through Saturday morning in particular for southwestern parts of the UK. Not much rain, a few showers further north and east, but really it's southwest England into central southern England and parts of Wales. Then skipping forward to the second half of Saturday, as you can see, further bands of showers are pushing into the southwest as well as Wales, but the initial spell of rain is also moving across central and increasingly northern parts. There is some uncertainty. Let's put that back on. There is some uncertainty about how far north the rain will go, but it's likely the north of Scotland is going to stay dry. It's the rest of the country that will see these spells of rain, cloud, showers moving in from the southwest increasingly through Saturday. So as you can see, there are some bands of higher totals, and there are some white patches still on the map, so not everywhere will get a soaking through Saturday, but some places will get more rain than they need right now. Similar into Sunday, we're going to see further spells of rain arrive. There's a signal there across the southeast there for some heavier and more prolonged rain through the first half of Sunday. But eventually, if this goes that far, the low does sink away. So it gets carried by the jet stream and it pushes away into the continent for the start of next week. Then we're left, well, we're back at square one really. And just to finish up, to give you an indication about what we're thinking for next week, well, this sums it up really. We're back with high pressure over Scandinavia, low pressure over the Atlantic, and this battleground, we're in the middle. Now, initially through next week, once that initial low pulls away into the continent, it's likely through Tuesday, Wednesday, perhaps Thursday, for most parts of the UK to be mostly dry because that high will start to dominate across the UK. Now, even though we'll have this Scandinavian high building across the UK and we might have a bit of an easterly influence for a time, there's nothing particularly cold to the east of us at the moment, so it might be feeling a bit chilly in the easterly wind, but actually temperatures aren't expected to be anything other than close to average. But we've still got this area of low pressure that's wanting to come in, and increasingly through the second half of next week, it looks likely that it will send some outbreaks of rain or showers into the west or the southwest at times as well. So we're back to this battleground between high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west. Which one will dominate the UK weather? When you look at it from this zoom level, well, actually, it's fairly straightforward through next week. High there, low there, but we're caught in the middle, and subtle changes in the position of the high and the low, of course, will have big impacts on the UK's weather. And really, that's how things are looking out to the next couple of weeks, perhaps throughout much of March, with this battleground between high pressure over Scandinavia and low pressure from the Atlantic. We'll explain more, of course, in the 10-day trend tomorrow. But for now, that's all from this week's Deep Dive. I hope you enjoyed it. Please send your feedback, send us your comments, hit the like button and hit subscribe so you don't miss these again in the future. Thanks for joining me.